Amílcar Cabral was born in 1924 in Bufata, in what was then Portuguese Guinea, a forgotten corner of one of Europe's most neglected empires. Portugal liked to believe it still ruled overseas possessions, but in reality, its African colonies were among the poorest, most exploited regions on Earth. Cabral was born into a Cape Verdean family that understood both privilege and oppression. His father was a teacher, and from an early age Cabral showed exceptional intelligence. Unlike most African children under colonial rule, he had access to education. But that education itself became a weapon that would later be turned against the empire that provided it. As a young man, Cabral traveled to Lisbon to study agronomy. Portugal believed that educating colonial elites would make them loyal administrators. Instead, it created revolutionaries. In Lisbon, Cabral encountered students from Angola, Mozambique, and other colonies who were quietly questioning the legitimacy of European rule. They shared stories of forced labor, famine, racial humiliation, and economic exploitation. These discussions planted the seeds of resistance. Cabral did not become radical overnight. He observed, studied, and analyzed. His mind worked like a scientist, not a demagogue. When he returned to Africa in the early 1950s as an agricultural engineer, he did not immediately take up arms. Instead, he traveled extensively through rural Guinea-Bissau, studying soil, crops, and farming systems. What he discovered shocked him. Colonial agriculture was not just inefficient, it was deliberately destructive. Portuguese policies forced farmers to grow cash crops for export instead of food for survival, leading to hunger, poverty, and dependency. Cabral realized that colonialism was not only political domination, it was an assault on culture, dignity, and life itself. From this understanding, his revolutionary philosophy was born. He believed liberation was not just about replacing white rulers with black ones. It was about restoring humanity to a people stripped of it. In 1956, Cabral co-founded the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde, known as the PAIGC. At first, the movement pursued peaceful reform, but Portugal responded with repression. Strikes were crushed, leaders arrested, and protesters shot. The massacre of dock workers in Pijiguiti in 1959 convinced Cabral that armed struggle was unavoidable. Yet Ibn he rejected blind violence. Cabral believed that a revolution without political education would simply reproduce tyranny. He trained his fighters not just to shoot, but to read, farm, and govern. Guerrilla camps became schools. Soldiers were taught to respect civilians, protect women, and share food. Discipline was absolute. Looting was punished severely. Cabral understood something many revolutionaries did not. The people were not a resource to be used. They were the revolution itself. As the war against Portugal intensified in the 1960s, Cabral emerged as one of the most effective leaders of anti-colonial resistance in Africa. Unlike many movements that relied on ethnic identity, Cabral insisted on unity across tribes and regions. He argued that colonialism thrived by dividing people, and liberation required transcending those divisions. His speeches were calm, precise, and deeply intellectual. He spoke not of hatred, but of historical necessity. He famously said that liberation movements must commit class suicide, meaning educated elites had to abandon privilege and serve the masses. Under his leadership, the PAIGC liberated large areas of Guinea-Bissau, establishing parallel governments, schools, clinics, and courts. Long before independence was officially declared, Portugal, weakened by its own dictatorship and endless colonial wars, could not defeat Cabral's forces. International observers, including the United Nations, began recognizing the PAIGC as the legitimate representative of the Guinean people. Cabral became a global figure, admired by leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, and even revolutionaries outside Africa. Yet despite his growing influence, he remained personally humble. He lived simply, rejected cults of personality, and warned constantly against corruption after independence. Tragically, Cabral would never see the freedom he fought for. On January 20th, 1973, he was assassinated in Conakry by dissidents within his own movement, manipulated by Portuguese intelligence. His death was a devastating blow, but it did not stop the revolution. Guinea-Bissau declared independence later that year, and Cape Verde followed soon after. Cabral's ideas outlived him. Unlike many post-colonial leaders, he left behind not just a nation, but a philosophy of liberation rooted in ethics, culture, and responsibility. Today, Amílcar Cabral is remembered not as a warlord, but as one of the greatest political thinkers of the 20th century. He proved that resistance could be intelligent, disciplined, and humane. He showed that true independence begins in the mind, not on the battlefield. His life stands as a reminder that the most dangerous threat to empire is not violence alone, but understanding. If you found this story powerful and want more deep historical narratives like this, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the Royal Era and turn on notifications for more untold history from the past that still shapes our world today.